Yo guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel, or welcome if you've never been here before. So today I'm just jumping on to do my pre-market forecast, and this will be the pre-market forecast for the week commencing the 28th of March and ending on the 1st of April. But before I do jump into the forecast, I will just draw your guys' attention to the written version of this forecast. So I'll be linking the written version of the forecast in the description, and it will pretty much say everything that I'm going to say in this video, but hopefully I'll give more information in the video. So if you guys want to check out the written version of this forecast, then do just click the link in the description. And as always guys, if you enjoy this content, please like and subscribe, and I'll be super grateful for that. Alright guys, so let's jump into the forecast. So, so the first pair I'm going to do is Nzdusd. Alright, so looking at the daily on NZD, we've now had this bullish break of structure. So based on this bullish break, I'm now looking at a bull bias, and I'll look to follow price action into new highs following this break of structure. So in terms of following the price action, what we need to work out is basically where to buy from. So looking at the daily right now, we broke the structure here. That structural break originated down there. So for me, we've got this clear order block, which is basically this liquidity move down to then cause a break of structure. And in terms of the refinement of that order block on the daily, we've got this here, the most extreme candle, and that candle has a big imbalance on it there. So that imbalance essentially adds quite a bit of confluence to this order block down here. So on Nzdusd, it's literally just a case of, from my perspective on the daily, of waiting for price to retrace all the way down here, and then we can look to buy when we see that hourly structure shift in this area. Now, what I am aware of is that, that is quite a deep retracement, because it does seem like we've already had some order flow created down here. So sometimes what will happen once you get this order flow created, it can just continue shooting upwards, and you may not get that deeper retracement. So whilst definitely I think that the cleanest move on NZD is going to be a retracement back down to here, it is possible that we are just going to keep seeing now the NZD pushing upwards, and it might not come back to this ideal place. So for that reason, I have identified another demand area which I do think could very realistically hold the price up. So whilst, yeah, I would like it to come down here most ideally, what I can see is that on the 6 hour, our most recent break of structure is here, and that break of structure was caused by this candle here. So for me, this here is a clear demand zone. So what I will be aware of is that when price does get back down into this area, we could just see that continuation coming in out of this demand zone here. So for me this week on Nzdusd, there's two clear opportunities. The first one, when we get into this demand zone here, we'll see how price reacts, and then if we do see that bullish reversal, I don't see why we can't look to be trading it up. And then if that doesn't happen, then alright, so if this doesn't happen, what we will most likely see is some type of bearish order flow forming, and I'd expect some type of reaction around this area. So if this demand does fail, we may be able to catch a counter trend to continue the bearish price action to take us down into this area here. And then once we do get into this area here, we can look to buy out of there. So overall on NZD/USD, we're basically looking to follow the daily buy bias, and we're looking to follow it from either the 6 hour demand or the daily demand or order block, whatever you want to call it. And also what we can be aware of, if we are committing to the idea that it's going to come down to here, then we do obviously have 170 pips, so counter trend intraday trades are definitely on the cards if that is what we're thinking is going to happen. Alright, so let's move on to AUD. Alright, so AUD USD, it's kind of similar to NZD, but it is still quite a bit different. So looking at the daily, we've had the first break of structure for bulls, so that gave us our bullish intent, which I spoke about, and then we reacted off the order block that I was talking about last week, and now this week we've seen our second bullish break. So with that, we've now got our confirmed bullish trend, and due to this mitigation that took place here, we've also got confirmed bullish order flow. So I'd say that the bullish bias is pretty much as strong as it's going to get on AUD/USD. So definitely from a daily perspective, I'm super confident on the buys. And that's until we violate this order flow invalidation here. If we do violate that, then obviously have to reassess everything. But right now, I'd say the bullish bias is very strong on AU. So the question really is just where to buy from. So the most recent break of structure originated from this low down here. So that's for trading range at the minute from this high here to this low. Now we can clearly see, right, the institutions have caused this sell move to mitigate, and then out of this candle here, that's where the impulsive bullish nature started. So for me, this is the order block which caused this whole move, and that's why I'd expect price to potentially come down, back down here, so the institutions can mitigate again before then giving us that full release to take us substantially higher on the daily. Now that said though, and similar to NU, you know, it is a big retracement. We've already had order flow there, so even though I do expect price, you know, most likely, most ideally, it will come down here, but it is still possible that we have now seen, you know, the mitigation take place already, and now they're happy to leave behind some imbalance as they just continue to push price forward. So in that situation, if we are just going to keep going upwards, it's quite unlikely that we will retrace down this far. So the real thing with the AU this week is just understanding what's going on and being open to a few opportunities. So if we do get back down here, then absolutely we can look for buys because that's got imbalance and it mitigated and it's got your order flow invalidation there. So this is an absolutely ideal place to buy out of on the daily. Now, what I have noticed and what you can clearly see, so you can just see it on the daily anyway. So the actual break of structure took place here, and we see we get this like continuation candle just before it. Now, it doesn't happen all the time, but what I have noticed, and I've seen this in my backtesting, is that sometimes you'll get like a base or continuation candle before the actual break of structure, and especially when it's got imbalance like this one has, what will happen is price will just trickle back down into this zone and then it will just continue buying away from there. And that's just because there's so much momentum in the market. The institutions, they don't want to pull the price all the way back down there. They just want to keep going with the momentum. So if that is what's going to happen, I do think that we could also see buys coming out of this area here. So we know we're on a bullish bias overall, and I think the main thing to be doing going into the week is firstly watching this area here, see if we do see them, you know, bullish reversal coming in, then we can continue. And then if that fails, then waiting and looking for the buys to come in down here, then we can buy out of there. And you know, like Nzdusd USD, if the higher demand zone does fail, then I mean, there's nothing wrong with counter trend sells intraday because it is going to take multiple days to get back down there, and it is 280 pips. So you could definitely see your counter trend sells coming in if this area doesn't get reacted to. So yeah, that's the AUD USD this week. It's really just a case between we know we're buying and it's whether we're going to buy from here or from down here. Alright, so let's go Euro USD. So, you know, Euro USD, it's literally not changed since last week. I mean, you can see it on the daily. The last 5 days, it's just been this consolidation essentially. So, just like last week, we've got our 2 consecutive breaks on the daily. So we know that we're in a bearish structure on the daily. We know we've got a bearish bias. Now, looking where to continue that bearish bias from, on the daily, we've got this high here, and we've got this imbalance here. So for me, this whole area is a clear daily order block. So if we do get up here, then I'll happily look for sells to continue the daily sell bias out of this order block. So that's the first opportunity on EU. The second opportunity is on the 4 hour. Now, on the 4 hour, we've got this clear order block here with imbalance, and price is still not getting up there. So for me, I'm basically waiting for price to at least come and mitigate up here before we then see that sell off. So, you know, in the shorter term, I am expecting buys in the market so that we can end up here. And then when we do get into this 4 hour region for sells, that's when I'll be looking at lower time frame price actions, potentially take sells away from it. And failing that, I'll still be expecting sells and I'll be looking for them up here. So that's EU, just literally the same as last week. And remember, all this stuff is in the written version of the forecast as well, but I won't spend too long on EU today. Alright, so pound dollar, a bit more going on than there is with EU. So overall on pound dollar, we've had our two bearish breaks for sells on the daily, right? So because we had two consecutive breaks bearish, for me that means we're on sell bias. Now this was the new high, which has now been broken above. Now I've not got it marked on the daily, but I have got it marked on the 4 hour. So what I do want to do is just study this impulsive leg here a bit. So we can see that we've got this overall bearish move. Now in the way that I mark the highs and lows, we've got a new low there because this candle body closes above this, and then that's created a new trading range. But if we look at this trading range, it's only a 3-day trading range compared with this whole thing, which is like, I don't know, 20 days worth of trading range. So for me, whilst technically, yeah, this is its own trading range, and we have now had that bullish break of structure, I'm still overall bearish on the actual daily structure because we had the last two consecutive breaks of structure bearish, and we've got this massive, you know, this massive impulsive nature here in this whole leg. Now, for me, the purpose from the institutional perspective, the purpose of this was to just generate liquidity so that they could justify, well, make more money from basically doing this pullback, and then they can either pull it back into this area here, which caused the direct break of structure previous, or they can pull it back into this more extreme area up here, whichever one they prefer to do. So from what I'm seeing on GU, that's my understanding of what's going on from the institutional perspective. And what it comes down to is we're looking for sells either out of this area or out of this area. So we just got to wait in terms of that to see which area they actually want to react from and which area they're actually going to take sells away from. So looking at the 4 hour and considering that, you know, obviously from where the price is right now, just up to the closer OB, it's 144 pips and it's 300 pips to the higher OB. So considering that, there's absolutely scope to be taking buys and capitalize on bullish opportunity this week in GU. And for me, it's actually really clean on the 4 hour. So that's what I'll be looking at this week. So on the 4 hour, we have clearly transitioned into the bullish bias because we've got the break structure 1, break structure 2, so we've got our clear 4 hour trend change. Now, something that's really cool about this is that there's not really any imbalance down here. So, you know, the first actual imbalance in this whole move, which is still intact, is this one here, which still hasn't been filled. Now, what we've also got is that this break of structure was clearly caused by this candle down here. So for me, this is a clear bullish order block, right? So 4 hour bullish order block. And what I'm anticipating is that price is going to respect this order block, and we are going to see that bullish move to break the 4 hour structure again. So, you know, I feel pretty good about this one this week on pound dollar, and this is all I'm going to be interested in going into the start of week on pound dollar. So I'll just be looking for buys out of there, and then we can look to ride that up to the open of the first order block for sales on a higher time frame. So for me, that is a clean move on GU. That's what I'm expecting, and that's what I will be looking for. And then when we do get into this area here, I'll be watching the hourly timeframes and following them to see if we do get that bearish price action, which I can then look to capitalize on for sales. Alright guys, so that is GU this week. So euro pound this week, and again, I'm not going to spend age on euro pound. So you can go back the previous weeks if you want a really deep. I mean, I broke down what's been going on euro pound all the way from there every week for the last like 20 weeks. So you can go check out what's been happening on the euro pound if you want with my previous forecast. But right now we're in a weekly range between this high here and this low down here. So what I'm expecting is that this whole bearish trend is just going to continue, and now we've actually tapped into the supply within this range. I think that we've mitigated the high and we're now ready to continue lower. So this week coming on GU and potentially next week as well, I'm just expecting on EG, I'm just expecting EG to continue selling off, and then we can break this weekly structure again. And in the absolute higher time frame, we've got this massive imbalance with an order block. So for me, I do think we've got that high time frame target to come down quite a bit further than where we are now. So that's why on the weekly I'm absolutely bearish on EG. So the daily, I won't mess with the daily because that's basically just a slightly clearer version, less clear version, sorry, of the weekly. But let's take a look at the 4 hour. All right, so we had our weekly order block up here. We've tapped into it, and then we see the sell volume coming into the market. So now that we've come out of this weekly order block, we can see that the institutions have started selling. Now, in my mind, that means that they've mitigated whatever whatever orders they had up here. They've finished up here with what they wanted to do, and now they've shifted the market structure, and they're now setting up this whole sell move, ready to break the structure again on the weekly. So what we can see on the 4 hour, we had this range here, and then what's happened is price has failed to break the high again, and the sell volumes kicked in, and we've broken the low on the 4 hour, leaving behind this absolutely clear order block with imbalance. So for me, this is the 4 hour entry into the weekly sell bias order block. So what I'm going to be looking at this week simply is we had this breaker structure coming away from the weekly order block, and that's left behind the range from this high to this low. Now for me, within that range, we've got supply from where this candle is, because that is clearly institutional manipulation to create liquidity so that they could do this breaker structure move. And we've also got imbalance below. So I'm absolutely happy to look for sells out of this area, and that's all I'm interested in this week on Euro Pound. And then yeah, hopefully take it down there. So let's see if we can get that on the Euro Pound, and that is what I'm interested in this week on Euro Pound. Alright, so Pound Yen now, and the last pair for today. So we've had two consecutive break structure bullish on Pound Yen on the daily, so we know for an absolute fact now that we are in a bullish bias on Pound Yen. Now, for me, I really see three outcomes, all right? So the first outcome is that we have now kicked off the trend, as it were. We've had all this order flow, this corrective nature down here, and what we could see now is price just continue to go up impulsively until we see that deceleration coming in. So in terms of literally just following this impulsive nature on buys, I'd say that it'd be all right if we see on the 1 hour, if we can see bullish structure and bullish opportunity, then I think that's absolutely fine to just continue looking to follow that, because we know we're supported by the daily bullish impulsive nature. So anything from the 1 hour to the 4 hours on GJ, I'm happy to look to continue the bullish structure for buys and continue that. But looking at the daily structure, if we are going to expect some type of retracement and we're not just going to expect them lower time frames to continue, then I have marked up two order blocks that I could see a potential retracement to. Alright, so the first one is down here. Now, clearly, this whole move here is what's then caused this break of structure. So we've got a clear order block down here, and for me, it would make sense if price does come back down here, that we will then see the bullish orders coming into the market, and we can look to buy away from there to then break structure again. Now, what I can also see is that we do have some sell volume within these candles here, and they happened just before we actually did break the structure. Now, due to the impulsive nature and the momentum behind this leg of structure here, that's what's giving me a bit of doubt about whether we are actually going to see that deeper retracement. So that's why I marked out this area here. So for me, what's definitely possible and plausible on GJ is that we will just see a retracement into this area here, which has that sell volume in it, and then we'll see, the buys coming into the market to then push the market up and break structure again. And that will be, like maybe 2-3 day retracement rather than a 1 or 2 week retracement. So for me, they're basically the two opportunities that I'm looking at on GJ. We're looking at some type of retracement into the daily range, and then we can look to continue trading that following the daily bullish bias. But also, like I say, because we're in such a strong bullish bias and such a strong move, really we just need an excuse to buy. And I'm not saying go down to the 15-minute, 5-minute straight away from a daily, but check out the 4 hour, and you could potentially just look to continue the 4 hour structure. I know right now the 4 hour is reacting to a bullish order block, so for all I know, we can literally just continue to break structure again, reacting from this order block here on the 4 hour. So on GJ, guys, just keep an eye on the hourly timeframes. Make sure you're following what the hour is doing, and nothing wrong with trading with the hourly structure on this one. But also, if you want to look at it from the daily, then this is what I'm seeing on the daily. Alright guys, so thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you guys got value today, and if you did get value, then please subscribe to the channel. Alright guys, cheers for watching, and have a safe trading week. Stick to your trading plans and your risk management. Cheers guys.